This is Brett Olin.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall. You're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing today? I'm happy to announce that I met with Silver Gold Bull, and they're back in for another year. That's pretty exciting news on this side, and that comes from all of you fine folks supporting them, which supports me. And it's, I don't know, it's a win-win-win. I got to sit and meet with them today, and my hat's off to all you lovely people. I know on this end, while I'm doing this, there are times I go, what are we going to be doing next year? Because you never know if people are still enjoying the show or you know, what businesses are seeing. And, sat and talked with Silver Gold Bull brass, and we talked about how the engagement of this audience in particular has been just, impressive. And that is all of you wonderful human beings. So make sure if you're looking for any silver and gold, you look no further than Alberta's own Silver Gold Bull. Text or email Grahame for details. I got to meet up with Grahame and hear some of the cool stories of some of you fine folks in the conversations you've been having. That was pretty cool. So if you're looking for silver, gold, all your precious metal needs, look no further than Silver Gold Bull, and make sure to drop in the Shaun Newman Podcast is where you heard about him. McGowan Professional Chartered Accountants. I'm talking about Kristen McGowan, of course. She is Northwest School Division's newest board trustee, that is, and she offers accounting, bookkeeping, business consulting and training, financial planning, and tax planning. If you're in need of some financial acumen, a little bit of a smile with some knowledge, look no further than McGowanCPA.ca. That's Chris McGowan and team over at McGowan Professional Chartered Accountants. Substack, it's free to subscribe to. It has been a stretch here, but if you're looking to get the week in review, which by this point in time, I've completely missed a week, I was racing, and I think I'm going to put something out, but regardless, doesn't matter. I'm not going to blow up what I'm trying to point out is I'm definitely not the guy who's going to blow up your email inbox with 18 different emails in a week. It's going to be one a week on Sundays, 5 p.m. It's going to give you the breakdown, the lowdown, everything on the podcast. All you got to do is go down to the show notes and subscribe. Cornerstone Forum, that's, part of the reason why I'm down here in Calgary still. It's at the Winsport, May 10th. Tom Luongo, Alex Kreiner, Chuck Prodnick, Kalen Ford, Matt Ehret, Chase Barber, Chris Sim, Tom Bodrovics. And we're going to announce another on Sunday. So pay attention, once again, to the Substack. Early bird tickets on until the end of December. So if you're looking to get a cheap ticket to the show, now is the time to go grab one. That's, once again, down the show notes. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. If you're sitting on X, make sure to give it a retweet. Let's break through some of these echo chambers and get some of these interviews out to a larger audience. Same goes for Facebook. If you're on there, make sure to share. We just had an interview do 90,000 in a day. Think about that, folks. Think about that. When we think there's no chance that any of this is going to get out, it's because of you fine people that keep sharing. And please share away on whatever you're listening on. All right, let's get on to that tale of the tape. They're both assistant coaches for the Lakeland Rustlers women's basketball team. I'm talking Marissa Linquist and Tori Dugan. So buckle up. Here we go. Okay, welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today I'm joined by Marissa Linquist and Tori Dugan. So ladies, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I kind of feel bad, folks. I blew up Tori's phone. She's in Australia right now, and it's probably like, I don't know, 5 a.m. there right now. And I'm like, all through the night, I've been blowing up her phone. So appreciate you making time to do this. I know this is important to both of you. You've both been coaching with Chris. And I guess that's where I want to start, is just a bit of your background so people can get to know who's on the podcast today. Certainly this is a follow-up to the interview I did with the three players from the beginning of the week. But Marissa, how about we start with yourself? You can just give a little bit of your background and as short or as long as you want to go.
Yeah, so first, thanks for having us. I'm Marissa, and I am now an assistant coach here with Chris at Lakeland College. I've been here coaching with him since 2017. So we're year 7, 8, something like that, when you take COVID into consideration. And before that, I played for Chris for 2 years as well. So I've known him as a coach, seen his program, all that kind of stuff for the last 15 years here now. So.
I guess I'm probably gonna ask both of you this, but coaching with somebody, also being national champs, that type of thing. What have you taken from being a player under Chris to being, alongside him and coaching with him?
Yeah, I've learned so much from my time with Chris, both as a player and now as a coach. It was really playing for Chris that got me interested in coaching. And so it's been cool to have had that player coach relationship and now continue to learn from him as a coach, see myself grow as a coach under his leadership, see him grow as a coach while I've been around, and just now have those aspirations to keep coaching myself because of the mentorship he's provided for me.
And Tori, yourself, maybe a little bit of your background and how the heck do you get from where you live now to, I love Lloydminster. I really do. But at the same token, I'm like, the girls earlier in the week pointed it out that it's not exactly the destination of choice. It's not this tropical location, although I love the area. And I think once you're here, I think a lot of people begin to love it. How do you get here? And just walk us through your time at Lakeland.
Yeah, I won't go through everything as it's a very long story, but I went through a recruiting company who don't exist anymore. But yeah, Chris was actually the first coach to email me. And I didn't even know colleges existed in Canada. And I was kind of just like, oh yeah, first email, I'll just string him along. But I couldn't string him along because his recruiting methods are nothing short of outstanding. He convinced my family that I would have a sense of security, and that was the biggest thing, I think, when you're being recruited, especially internationally, and your parents are giving up their kid halfway around the world. You have to win over the parents. And my parents were won over quite easily from Chris. So I head over as a young 17-year-old from Australia, not knowing where the heck Lloyd is. I did not look up anything about it. Didn't know that it was in the middle of Canada, completely freezing. But yeah, I headed over in 2014 and played for Chris. Oh gosh, it would have been 8 years with injuries and COVID. But yeah, I had the best experience. I did not have a college career that I was exactly imagining. I was not the most studious person. I failed school a couple of times and had a knee reconstruction, but throughout all those tough times, Chris was always there supporting me, making sure that I had the belief in myself that he saw, and I didn't see that in myself as much as what he saw. But yeah, I just wanted to keep pushing to be the best version of myself, not only for myself and my family, but for him, because he installed that belief, and I learned a ton of discipline, accountability, and more importantly, how to be a good human. So yes, my career was very successful, but the valuable lessons that I took from learning from him to be a really great human was the most valuable thing. And when I went and had the opportunity to play professional basketball after I was done my college eligibility, I didn't have the best experience playing pro, and he made sure that I would always have a home at Lakeland. And I wanted to take those valuable lessons that I learned from him playing and give those same lessons and experiences to kids coming through the program. So Chris is, as Marissa's mentioned, I wanted to continue to learn from him, and he is nothing short of an outstanding role model. So I wanted to keep learning and grow as a coach through him. So yeah, I've continued to do that, and it's the best decision that I've made.
Ladies, since I did the first when I heard the news, and then I had Sarah, Susan, and Andrea on, and then that kind of exploded, and then they had, I'm sitting in Calgary right now. If anyone's wondering where I am, this isn't the regular studio. And then the Post-it notes started going all over Lakeland. So if you're listening to this from across Canada or into the United States or elsewhere for that matter, and you're wondering what the heck are they talking about, these Post-it notes? I don't know the full story, but I would love to hear a bit more about it. If you two could share anything. I mean, obviously Tori isn't in country either right now; she's sitting in Australia. But from what I could see, there was Post-it notes put all over Lakeland, basically saying, hey, we'd like to have a voice and bring our coach back. It's kind of caught a little bit of a wind, if you would, this story of to how bizarre it continues to get. But before we get into maybe some of that, the number one question I got asked from the interview with the girls was, what the heck happened at practice? And you two being assistant coaches, and I assume being there, maybe we could just walk through that and bring people up to speed.
Tori, do you want to start? And you start and I'll jump in after.
Yeah. Well, we had played a exhibition game. Was it the day before the 30th, Marissa?
Yeah, it was on a Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. And upon our way home, the girls had forgotten their jersey bag. Now, obviously, the girls did state that in your podcast with them, Shaun. But I want to make really clear that each year, girls make rules, expectations, goals for every year. Marissa and I did that as players, and that is something that is done without coaches. There is never any coach present when we or they now do that. And it's purely for disciplinary actions to take accountability for themselves. So due to this jersey bag being left behind, they knew that they were going to have disciplinary actions involved due to their own doing and what they wanted to do. Now, Chris did say that night, because we had a 3-game exhibition trip and we got back at 1 a.m. the next morning, that everyone was to go home, recover, rest their bodies, which, I mean, everybody knows you do not go out and party. There was 3 individuals that went out that night and partied until 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, told by people on the team that were kept awake that night. And so we had players who were visibly very upset by the actions of 3 individuals, who came in the next morning and had asked to meet with Chris. Now, again, this was all the players doing. This was not Chris. This was all the players doing. So we had a little bit of a team meeting beforehand, and we headed to the gym and did some conditioning, which resulted in running lines. Due to, again, the players' own doing. It was a part of their goals, expectations, and part of them taking accountability for their actions. And as the girls were running, there was one individual that was already clearly not up to it before she hit the floor. Before we got to the floor when they were doing lines. Because she was one of the girls that had participated in activities the night before, which she was not meant to do. As the running went on, as the girls mentioned, she had fell to the floor. There was absolutely no hitting of her head, nothing like that. She just went down, and we tended to her right away. I was at the other side of the gym helping a couple of our athletes who have torn ACLs or recovering from ACL tears. Marissa was right in front. She attended to her right away. I then made my way over, and Chris got the girls to stop what they were doing, go to the other end of the gym, while we all tended to this individual. As that was happening, the girls ended up leaving the gym. A couple of minutes that was happening, she ended up standing up. We ended up getting her out of the gym, but during the time that we were tending to her, we were giving her water, Gatorade. She was responsive the whole time, talking to us. There was absolutely no need for us to call for any more help. We had the situation under control, and especially someone like Marissa and Chris, who are 2 people that I completely trust. Now, I'm only really in my second year of full coaching. They have dealt with way worse situations than this. So for them, and I didn't see any point that we had to call for extra help at all. I've also seen as a player people go through worse situations, way worse situations than that. So I thought everything was handled perfectly. The girls were tended to, they left the gym, they were together, discussing obviously their next point of action with their disciplinary piece. Obviously, as you can imagine, they were not happy with themselves with leaving the jersey bag and the stuff that had transpired the night before. But yeah, we got her out of the gym. She went to just outside of the team room. She was talking to her teammates. Her teammates were attending to her. Yeah, there was nothing that suggested that we needed to get any kind of help from anybody else, as the situation was under control through all of the coaches.
No, I think you did a really good job of explaining everything. And yeah, like Tori said, it was the athletes always set those goals or those expectations for themselves at the beginning of the year. And it was all based off of things that they had predetermined were how they would handle different situations.
Sorry, sorry. It's my Tori. That's my fault. I keep muting you because there's a little bit of echo in your audio. So I'm running it on this set. I'm doing a little. I'm like, I can see she's confused, folks, and forgive me for being an audio. One of the things on this side, folks, is like when you start doing this as much as I've done, I can just hear a little thing. So I've been muting your mic, and I can tell that's confusing you. Sorry, Tori. Carry on.
Good. As a player, and I'm sure Marissa can attest to this as well, and I was a captain for 3 out of the 5 years of my playing eligibility. That's something that we do, and there was a ton of things that we've done beforehand that we did not involve Chris. That was all player led as a player. That was way worse. And I mean, there's meetings in during years where we've discussed with Chris that maybe, this is the way we go, this is the way we do it, and Chris has always had the duty of care for us to say, that might be too harsh, I don't think we do that. So yeah, as a player, that is something that happens all of the time. And this was another ordinary situation. This wasn't something that was completely out of the ordinary and went above and beyond. Yeah, it was the same as any other year.
Well, ladies, then let's fast forward then to I unless I'm skipping over anything, let's fast forward to basically a week ago. Like things start to unravel, I would say, real fast. You go from complaint made, or I should say November 28th, I believe. Chris is put on administrative leave, and then essentially December 5th, I believe, he's just removed and terminated. Maybe you can give a little bit of insight into what goes on, because you're the assistant coaches, right? Like I assume you've been. I just assume at this point you've been interviewed, because if there's been an investigative process, they probably talked to the coaches that were there, I assume. But I've also learned from the other players that they didn't interview all the players. So I guess, like, did they interview either of you in this process of determining what happened back then?
I can start. So we were both interviewed. My interview was quite short. It felt very one-sided conversation in terms of the direction that it went. In terms of just, it felt very targeted, or like there was a preconceived notion or answer that it was being looked for. And then after that, I received no follow-up information at any point. I was away recruiting when Chris was placed on leave. But so I didn't hear anything. I got a phone call from Chris telling me, but then after that, there wasn't any communication to me from the college athletics, anything like that, explaining how this impacted me, why this had happened, anything like that. I was pretty much just like kind of left in the dark. So
when you talk about when you talk about getting interviewed and it being like one direction, what was the one direction they were pushing it that Chris was, I don't know, something, obviously.
Yeah, it was very much against the coaching staff, that we had done something wrong, that we were at fault. Again, which none of it we were. It was very much like a story had been told and they weren't out to hear the other side of the story.
If I may, because I feel like between what you're saying and what Tori's saying, and probably what the girls have said, actually, if I think about it, these like goals, these what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like standards was built by the team, correct? Not by the coaching staff?
Correct. Something Chris always says is about how like the coaches are just there to help. Like the best teams are the ones that are player led. And I think that's like part of what made Tori such a great leader was that she always did a good job of like helping show the team and helping set some of those goals and standards. And every leader is different and every team is different. But this year was no different in that all of those goals and standards, were set by the team themselves. And it's just our job as coaches to kind of like help where they ask.
Tori, then you're around, I assume you're on, like Marissa's gone. Are you sitting on campus at this time?
Yes. Yeah. While Marissa was recruiting, yes, I was on campus. But I mean, very, very similar story to Marissa. My interview was very long. Mine actually took the entire hour. But this is where I don't understand. I'm baffled. I'm at a loss for words with how this was handled. I was accused for a ton of stuff, probably more than Chris. And the fact that I have received absolutely zero communication back from the investigator or the school, again, this is why I'm just, how is this happening? How is this possible? Because how could I be accused of stuff that's probably a lot more than what Chris had been accused for? Because I will sit here and say I definitely was the most vocal during that day on the September 30th date. If anyone should be reprimanded, it should be me. And players have said that because they've said coach didn't even say much. Like Tori was the one that was bitterly disappointed. So yeah, I got interviewed for the full time, and it was very targeted. There was not tell me your side of the story. What was your version of events? It was you did this. What do you have to say for yourself? Which I don't understand how. I've checked Lakeland's policies online. It needs to be an unbiased investigation. Both parties need to be heard. But just the way that this was handled by our school leaders has been appalling. Before this investigation was officially launched, myself, Chris, and Marissa had gone to our athletic director to express our concern because we had heard things around the grapevine, but nobody understands what the heck this has done to our mental health. Nobody. Like we have been, before Chris got terminated, this has been, I don't know, Marissa, you can speak for yourself here, but it's been one of the worst years of my life.
But it's been all consuming.
Ooh. Take it away, Marissa. I'll need a little bit.
And I think where our frustration comes in is just how none of it makes sense and how there's been no communication to us who were involved, who were interviewed. And it doesn't make sense. Like Tori said, that we have questions that haven't been answered. And we've been trying to get answers and there's nothing being said, nothing being shared.
No. I'll get back to it now. But we have always been told by our head of athletics or anyone at the top of the helmet athletics that the school will always defend and fight for their staff. That is quote unquote. We have received we've received no support, absolutely no support. Marissa and I have sent emails to express our disappointment or where do we go from here. Not one person has responded. Now, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you supposedly support your staff in any way, shape or form, you have to receive some kind of communication, and we've received absolutely nothing. So fast forward to the day that I was on campus and Chris was put on leave. We were meant to go leave for a road trip to Medicine Hat and Caronport. The athletic director had asked to meet with Chris at 1 p.m. The girls were meant to leave at around 3. I had gone to get us lunch, and I'd walked back into the office. Chris came straight back in as soon as he saw me and said, "I've been put on leave indefinitely," right away. And excuse my language, but I yelled out, "What the fuck? Like, are you serious? Like, we've received absolutely no communication on this matter, and they're just suspending the coach." And right away, I was just like, absolutely not am I going to stand by this decision. And as much, I want to make this also really clear, we love our girls and we support them 110%. But with this situation, I'm standing by the guy that has given me so much and now, like, leader of the group. So I automatically was like, yeah, I'm not coaching. Our athletic director had come in and said to me, "Oh, so I guess you're out?" And I said, absolutely. Like, there's no fucking way I'm coaching. I knew Marissa would be on the same page, but then I had to take a back step, and Chris had to leave the school immediately. Just had to get his stuff and leave. Couldn't see the girls, couldn't have any communication with the girls, which again makes absolutely no sense. I was investigated and asked about a ton of things that were appalling and false accusations. Why do I get to go to the school? Why do I get to coach? Why has there been no communication with me when over half of those questions were to do with what I did, not Chris? And yeah, he left. We called the girls in the team room, where myself and the athletic director had a very vague talk with the girls. We couldn't say anything. We were advised to not say a single thing. What would have happened is those girls would have got on the bus with no coach, no communication, and just say, "Hey, go, we'll find you a coach, and when you get there, you'll find this out." So these girls, away from their families, away from their emotional support system, are going to get to Medicine Hat, which is 3.5 hours away, and be blindsided and have absolutely no coach. I couldn't live with myself if I was to send a team of 14 girls 3.5 hours away on a road trip for 2 nights with no emotional support. Which, yeah, Chris couldn't have obviously any communication, and all the girls wanted to do was call Chris. That's all they wanted to do, was go talk to Chris and see Chris. They had a team meeting, which they decided that they were not going to play. They were going to stand in solidarity with Chris, which I think speaks volumes itself. How do you not see that an entire team is standing by their head coach and not wanting to play when this is going on? And from that point onward, there was zero communication from any of the Lakeland leaders, including athletics.
The only thing I would add to that is Medicine Hat from Lloyd. It's probably closer to 6 hours on a bus, right? Like, especially even at this time of year, it's not exactly the most picturesque drive. We're going to tease about Lloydminster. We can tease about driving through Oyen and a few other places. Sorry, Oyen. Marissa, would you add anything to that? Certainly, from like, they remove Chris. Did they go, "Hey, would you mind coaching?" Like, is there any communication like this, or are they just like, feed them to the wolves, away they go?
So at the point when he's put on leave, there's nothing. I'm away recruiting still at this point. I'm getting updates from Tori via like text and phone call, but I'm as much in the dark as anybody else. So that was the Thursday that they were supposed to leave. This was the day he was placed on leave. I don't remember, the 28th maybe of November, something like that. And so at that point, there was no communication. Since then, when he was fired last Thursday, December 5th, I believe is the date. The only communication after I sent an email basically saying, like, how come we haven't received any information, anything like that. I got an email from the athletic director, and it was, "We would like you to coach. We would like you to take over the team on an interim basis." To which at the time I haven't responded still, because they haven't provided me with any information. And I'm kind of unsure how I can be investigated and then asked to take over a team. So again, communication lines of things just don't quite add up, don't make sense. There's been nothing communicated to me since that email. And it was apparently told to the team last night that I had declined the offer to coach, which again, I hadn't said anything to the athletic director. So I'm not sure how they determined that I was declining to coach when there was no communication. Same as from their side, no communication.
Well, it's interesting. It feels like a common thread in this is maybe a lack of communication, among other things. But certainly, it seems like in talking to the players, they had a lack of anything given to them about what the situation was going on. And certainly, from what I'm getting out of you two ladies, is a similar theme happening.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and again, we have been told that we will be fought for no matter what the situation is. We'll always have our backs had or whatever that may be. And it's so disappointing, especially from the relationships that we've made over the time that we've been there. We've stuck our nose out and just given. I'm going to make this really clear to everyone. Marissa and I get paid nothing for this. We get paid a little bit. But last year, for the entire 8 months of coaching, we didn't even get paid enough to cover 1 month's rent for the entire year. You get paid very, very little assistant coaching. We would joke about that, but we do this because we love it and we love the program, and it's a program that has given us so much. And so to see the relationships that we've made over that course of time, and those people not communicate or have any kind of want to do the right thing. I would go and recommend anybody to go to Lakeland because it's given me so much. It's given the people around me so much. But now with this happening, true colors show when stuff like this happens. And I wouldn't recommend Lakeland to anybody now. And it's hard to see some of the same people who have been there since Chris started and since we've been there, and absolutely nothing be done. I don't want to get into this too much, but over the time that I've been there, there has been a ton of things that have been complained about or that have been brought up to leaders, and this is what they do. Slide it under the rug. Nothing gets said. They want to just play hush-hush, clear it up, and not talk about it. When this is stuff that is serious, that has been affecting a ton of people in a very bad way. And yet this is something that they fire a coach about. It makes absolutely no sense. Again, I don't want to get into the situations here, but there has been a ton of stuff over the years that have been way worse and nothing has been done. They've just put it under a blanket and not want anyone to talk about it.
I guess before I let, hey, I appreciate you both coming on and doing this. Tori, I really appreciate you waking up in the middle of the night to come do this. But I don't want to cut it off short either. So, like if there's anything else you want, whether it be Chris King, Lakeland College, leadership, maybe the players, the team itself, or Lloydminster, or all the above, the floor is yours. Just, like Marissa, Tori, I don't want to skip over things, but you've been, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I get the story. Like I guess I should ask about this Post-it notes and what the team's trying to do, but it seems like right now it's pretty quiet. Like it's eerily quiet from Lakeland's standpoint.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of people, whether it's the team, the community, alumni, other supporters that have very much tried to make their voices heard, tried to get answers on the situation, tried to reach out to Lakeland's leadership team to get information, to get clarity, to get answers, to get anything. And there's been very little shared, very little response from anyone. And so to kind of like touch on that Post-it note situation as you talked about, the girls decided to make their voice heard and posted, how many, I don't know. I'm going to put it at over 1,000 sticky notes around the school saying, we want our coach back. Here are our voices, different statements like that to help draw attention to the situation, to help have their voices be heard. So that was kind of where that piece went.
My favorite Post-it note was no king, no ring. I thought that was rather clever. Tori, any final thoughts? And if we've skipped over anything, ladies, I want to make sure that I give you plenty of time. We have time, but I just want to make sure that, if you got anything that needs to be said, fire away.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to keep pushing and keep having their voice heard. Lakeland have made it very evident that they will not hire Chris back with the lack of communication, but you need to hear our voices, especially the girls. The girls need to keep making sure that their voices are heard. Again, it's just a really silly situation. It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, Lakeland, first of all, do better, wake up and attend to these poor girls. You have completely disrupted their lives in the middle of finals, and they have no idea the impact that this has made on their mental health and also the uproar of the community. I would encourage everybody to keep their voice be heard, don't stop, and keep pushing, because what Lakeland wants to do is just, again, put it under a rug, wait it out until this is all done. I don't think they understand the severity of this, but it also is a true testament, not just in the support around Lloyd and the girls, around the league and Canada-wide. It's a true testament to the character and the true human that Chris is, and the amount of impact that he's had on thousands of lives. I just don't understand how you can unsee that. And yeah, keep pushing, keep being loud, and I hope that this gives some light into the situation. But from a Lakeland standpoint, I'm obviously very disappointed, but we are not going to stop until we get answers and until justice is served. So keep having a voice, keep being loud, and don't back down.
Marissa, any final thoughts?
I think just the biggest thing is that, like, none of us would have been at Lakeland, like the girl said. None of us would have come to Lakeland if it wasn't for Chris. And he built so much both for the team at the school, but also everything in the community has been a result of him and his doing. And so I think my biggest thing would just be, like, I don't think anybody understands that this is more than just a group of 12 athletes or 14 athletes in 1 year. This is going to have a ripple effect into the community at a large. And you can see that just by the alumni you're hearing from, the community you're hearing from, the athletes you're hearing from, all of that. So,
well, ladies, I appreciate you coming on and doing this, and all the best down in Australia, Tori, and Marissa here in, sadly, the cold north. But appreciate you both hopping on and doing this. Kind of not short notice, but certainly we're jumping around some different time zones and different cities and everything else. So appreciate you both hopping on and doing this, and hopefully, some communication starts to open up between not only yourselves but the school and everything in between.
thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, and thank you for letting us and the girls in particular having a voice.